Because again, I can't just sit here and say you're not doing this, you're not doing that. And then if you were to do it in this hypothetical world, not give you your props for doing that. You know, I believe in equality, but I believe in being able to praise someone for something and still not being able to trust them. Like, I just still wouldn't trust Gronke. You know, he could invest in DG. I still wouldn't trust Donny, but make him pay that into some random Bitcoin account and just vanish with his piece. Like, because it's Gronke and whatnot. It is what it is, man. Please make sure you're hitting the like button, man. Please make sure you're hitting the like. But what else are you lot saying, man? Enough about the draft picks and all of that, man. I don't know about NBA, man. You lot need to come and make the stream. Please stop spamming. It's not going to make me read out what you're saying. What happened? I'm late at Maps. Bro, you're going to have to scroll back, my guy. Moving away from Stan Kroenke, people. Again, there's a lot of talk about Willian departing and Willian this and William that. I know what you lot probably think and what you want and all of those sort of things. But let's actually get into that, people. 1 second, because I can bring that one there up for you. Also, there's nothing really to bring up. It's just, you know, the transfer guru, godfather, mafioso, in which is Fabrizio Romano. He has said after David Luiz, also Willian is expected to leave Arsenal this summer. There's interest from European clubs and from MLS. Inter Miami wanted him last summer. Arsenal are waiting for official bids now. There's so many emotions attached to that. First and foremost, David Luiz, you're still extremely error prone, and I think people need to allow it, man. People are looking at David Luiz like he was some messiah. I think it shows another example of fans being able to just call the truth. It's always one extreme or the other. In that David Luiz is I was one of the biggest critics of David Luiz's signing. And I think I was backed up with ultimately a lot of mistakes he's made and things like that. But I also think he's been a much better signing than I believed he would have been. Fair enough, my expectations on the floor. But I really think he's been a leader. I do think when your team relies on Xhaka and David Luiz, as error prone as I think they are, you can only go so far. But I think to a degree, Xhaka, more so David Luiz, you stood up to be counted when we've needed you. You know, I think you're a man of integrity. You've actually played well in form and things. So big up David Luiz, whatever you're doing in your next step. Willian, hopefully, you know, is expected to leave. He damn well needs to leave. And if there's interest from European clubs, again, keep it moving. Now, one has to wonder what's going on in that regard specifically, people, because all we heard this team in Europe wanted you, that team in America wanted you, Chelsea wanted to keep you on a 2-year deal. Clearly, they're not as stupid as us. But you wanted to stay in London, you know, your family. Again, we don't know if the restaurant business is correlated, but I have to mention it. You got the restaurant business. Again, you wanted to stay, and I'm not one of them, man, who sit there and say, oh, because he's old in football terms and he's won it and he's come to Arsenal with all the problems we've got. He's got no hunger. He's got no desire. He's got no this. He's got no that. I believe you can, you know, I think footballers always want to succeed. You know, clearly Willian doesn't want to have the mediocre stats and the inconsistent performances. We've got to be a bit real. I think guys want to succeed, but this is where Arsenal have been wrong. And I can't really forgive the Willian one, but what I will say is in life in general, things go wrong, transfers go wrong. And to get better as a club, we need to make sure that less transfers are going wrong, like you can see with many of the people on loan and the man we're speaking about. But you also have to have an exit plan, you know, and there's not really a good exit plan when you look at Willian. You know, there's not an exit plan because, again, the first thing that scares me is Arsenal are waiting for official bids. Bro, you need to be letting man go for free. Because again, no one's gonna buy him for a transfer fee. Give Willian whatever wages he wants. We're gonna be in an issue there. And are Arsenal gonna supplement some of these wages? Where again, Willian needs to go. Paying some of his contract is better than all of it, but it's another unnecessary L. You know, it's another one. Yeah, you got rid of Ozil. Again, it's about learning in hindsight. You must have known for a while you was trying to get him to cancel that. Why did you give Willian? A blind man could see from a sporting point of view. Nobody thought Willian was going to be as bad as he has been. And I didn't want him to be signed, but okay, depth, all of that sort of stuff. I could understand it, but he's cost young players minutes. All I would love to know is the minutes per goals and assists that he's actually cost the football club. He's not justified them wages. He's not justified a spot in the team. He's cost young players. He's cost Pepe, Martinelli, Saka, Nelson. He's cost all of them. Now, he ain't really cost them because he's not picking himself. Arteta. And it highlighted the stubbornness of Arteta because, again, whether you wanted him or not, Arteta, you sat there and said it was your decision. It was your guy. So when it's your decision, to a degree, you're going to want, you know, you're going to have pride. And it took a while for him to drop Willian. Yeah, Willian had a little couple games in Europa. He's living off the Fulham game and he scored a fantastic goal against West Brom, a free kick. We haven't, you know, somehow we've got him for free and it's been expensive, much like Mkhitaryan, again, not learning from mistakes. European clubs, does he want to move to Europe? Again, if I'm a European club with what's happened, I'm not spending a transfer. Any team, do you really want to give Willian a transfer fee? Arsenal transfer fee for Willian and a sign-on fee for Willian and take on his wages, whatever they are, because I'd imagine he wants something, if not more, close to what he is on at Arsenal. You know, it's a terrible one, really. And this is what I mean about the football club. It's not just the big signings, it's the free transfers, it's the loan signings. You know, Ceballos twice. Have we got money's worth? I don't want to throw Odegaard in there and be reactionary, but have we got Odegaard? Have we got Odegaard's money worth? We damn well ain't got Willian, so we're not learning. You know, when you're not learning from in hindsight and applying better foresight, you can't really and doing the same things and the same practices, you can't expect much. And this is something where pre-season is going to be fucking tough for Arsenal. Pardon my language. You got players playing in the Olympics. Shout out to Martinelli and Gabriel. Couple players will play for the at the Euros, and ironically, a couple of them want to leave. So you're going to have to deal with Willian's future, Xhaka's future, Lacazette's future, allegedly, Bellerin's future. Get some of these loan players out, talk to people who are coming in. We're trying to buy scouts and stuff like that, bring in scouts to the club. So there's a lot to do. We know we can't do it all. This is why I hope that the club hasn't just woke up this week and said, oh, yeah, let's start thinking about what we're doing in the summer. The bulk of this summer business should have been I should have been dotted and T should have been crossed for me in the winter months. Of course, if you get Europe, if you don't get Europe, in life things change. Things change and spanners get thrown into the works and all of the rest of it, folks. But you get the point. Obviously, for Willian, it's one more less of that agent's players for the people who don't like the agent. But again, it makes me wonder: are Arsenal going to bring in a winger? Because you would argue, as an Arsenal fan, I've always got time for a winger and a next man and things like that. Are we going to promote someone, or is Nelson going to get more minutes, or are we just, because I think that should be the case. But on one hand, are we just looking at saving wages? Because again, if you save some wages on Willian and you're letting Louise go and you clear up a couple, that might justify what we're allegedly told, whether you agree or not, in that Lacazette's being given what's reported as a 1-year extension, or the offer is that where, that arguably you need to move Lacazette on as well, but you could kind of justify it. So once again, Willian's been a losing game, innit? Again, the statistics are mediocre. Let's be real, he's had a tough season mentally, but again, can only ask yourself, because I haven't seen it. You look off the pace, you don't look serious. Again, the worst thing is having a player that isn't good enough, lacking confidence, which has been Willian. I have sympathy from a human point of view. And, at one point this season, it wasn't even, I stopped getting at Willian, because at one point, you have to start looking at the man who's selecting the player. And he was playing Willian when evidently my man was upset and stuff. Don't get it twisted. As poor as Willian was, I think Willian started getting into that dangerous area, because fans don't want Donny, is that he's starting to become a bit toxic in that everything is all his fault sort of thing, where it's not always that. So again, a blind man could see Willian was a bad offer. And also you got to think about exit plan. If we're talking about being self-financing, not that you're being bad mind or you want signings to not bang, but you've got to think, if this goes tits up, how could we go? How could we get in there? My guy, it doesn't have to be Reece Nelson. I'm just giving examples, whether that's young players brought in or elsewhere. I'm just throwing examples. But like I was saying, you've got to have an exit plan with people like Willian. If it worse comes to worse, how are we getting out? You can't get out when you've given man that much P's, a 3-year deal. You can't get out, and you've seen the madness. You can't get out of that. Also, one thing I will say in Willian's defense, I think he's playing poor. I think his problems are with him as much, but I have to look at Arteta, because Willian has been, I speak to a lot of Chelsea fans, because, we all got, when you're in London, you got mates of all different clubs, and they told me Willian's always been frustrating. I was like, to him, real talk, has Willian never been this bad though? He's like, no. So I'm like, all right, cool. Clearly I can say he's declining. Obviously, Arsenal system and caliber of fellow players, Willian might not be able to hide and whatnot, but I have to look at Arteta. If not directly, I just feel Willian paints a part of provides a puzzle piece, because, Willian's been frustrating. But same way, this has probably been Willian's really, really, really terrible. So there's got to be a reason why he's been so terrible. Aubameyang has not scored goals. Lacazette's bagging for fun by his standards, but he has struggled under Arteta. Pepe had his struggles. Martinelli and this and that. Saka at a point. All the cams as well. When every attacking player has had a bit of question marks or tough periods, they have to ask themselves the question, because they're part of the collective. But at the same time, I have to look at Arteta, because, what are you doing in the tactics sort of thing? But that's the only defense I can give him, people. I want to see the back of Willian, innit? That will be exciting for me, because that will tell me you're a bit serious. But also, I've got some more thingies here, people. As I already said, I already spoke about what is the fallout plan, because it's all fun and games saying sell him and whatnot. You know, the best example for me is somehow you say you can go for free, Willian, do what you want. That club says we'll give you a decent contract. It might not be Arsenal's, and he says yes. When I look at it, he's getting on in football. He's got business interests. Football is, you know, you need money after making it. So what's the fallout plan? You know, will we, you know, if he is European clubs, as I said, what European club is gonna, well, realistically, even if you want to buy Willian, are you gonna give Arsenal a transfer fee? I hope we do, and his wages. So are Arsenal gonna have to come to a compromise? You know, so a club might say we'll take him for free, but you got to pay X amount of his wages. Certain players, you know, to a degree, paying 10%, 20% is better than 100%. I hear that. But again, there's an issue. If you cancel his contract, obviously there's an L there. You know, if you could get a transfer fee and whatnot, it's an L. If you tear up his contract, Arteta said, hope it doesn't come to these things. But once again, there's going to be egg on our face. We're losing money. It's another example of, as much as it's a Kroenke out thing, the people that away from Kroenke being terrible, and again, not to excuse him, you know, the people that are in charge of significant finances or signing off for things, they're making the wrong decisions. Because whether Arteta wanted Willian or not, Eddie, you should have seen, he's not 30. But we looked at it and you should have seen how bad it looks, because it looks like we're doing a crash thing. It looks like players are like, I might stay, I might not, I might stay, I might not. It's all Sunday League-ish, in my opinion. You know, again, for me, scrolling back up, people, well, we're going to talk about this in a sec. But for me, again, do we want to move Willian on, or does he want to go? There's a difference between the two. Is Willian saying, you know what, I don't want to stay in London no more. I want to go back to Brazil. I want to try MLS. I want to go to a next European country. I want to even go to another Prem team. I just don't want to be at Arsenal. Then that's cool. We can finesse that. But does he want to go, or do we want him to go? There's a big difference. Like I said, he's happy with his family there. You know, he's got a big deal, 3-year deal at Arsenal. Again, apparently, you know, he buys into Arteta's project. Arteta at this moment isn't going anywhere. You can see how difficult it is. You know, he's Arteta's guy, and Arteta's pride is somewhat on the line against him. It took him, you know, Arteta really tried to die on his Willian sword. Pause. Looking at that, people, as well, just me as a fan, you know, again, when I look at the culture of this football club, and we're going to get onto it in a bit, the key members of this team, or indirectly quote unquote key members, it looks like, I don't know if they're really committed to this thing, because again, Xhaka, Bellerin, Willian, Leno, they've all got 2 years left on their deal. They're entitled to think about their future and think about the next steps. But it just feels like the club don't want to move these lot on, with the exception of Bellerin. You know, they might want to move Bellerin on, but the club don't want to move on Leno. They don't want to move on Xhaka. They gave David Luiz a new deal where he had a good season this year, but some would have said, listen, last year was the time to clip it. Do we want to move these players on? I throw Willian into that, or do they want to move on, which can tell you the problem or could tell you, you know, a benefit.